One, two, 1, 2. As you're coming in, put your locations in the comments. Locations in the comments, everybody, as you come in. Make sure our sound is right. Locations in the comments as y'all are coming in. Put your locations in the comments. Let me know where you're checking in from. Shout a few people out. Let's just make sure we are active everywhere we're supposed to be active. All right, we're off over there. So we are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. Live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Let's check it. We are live on X. It says yes, but I'm not seeing the posts. Where is this? Oops. Yes, live on X. Good morning, X. Live on LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn and X and YouTube and Rumble is at Dre All Day. So those of you who want to watch these on YouTube, or you want to catch the replays on YouTube, they are on YouTube. Just look up Dre All Day or Rumble. If you're a Rumble user, X. If you want to watch live on X, they are there, and also on LinkedIn. I don't think LinkedIn keeps them, but if you want to watch live on LinkedIn, you can do so as well. We're live on Facebook, Facebook/Work on Your Game University. Facebook/Work on Your Game University is the business page. Live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin, directly in front of me. Good morning, Instagram, and live on TikTok over here to my right. And TikTok is at Work on Your Game. Give me your locations in the comments so we get into the topic. Topic here today is we got to give a PSA to the Republicans, the Republican politicians, Republican voters, conservatives, MAGA supporters, Trump supporters. There's a important conversation that needs to take place on the heels of what happened last week, and the heels of just what's been happening actually this whole year. And I'll explain that in a minute. Give me your locations in the comments. So I'll shout a few people out. Happy Veterans Day to those of you celebrating or having a day off. Shout out those who get a day off randomly on a Tuesday. 140.6 Walnut Creek, California. Good morning. First comment. Congratulations. Echoes 9711. Good morning. Marky Mark. Grand Rising. Echo says snowy day here in Pennsylvania. Where in Pennsylvania you at? It's snowing in Pennsylvania? Well, it is 40 right now in South Florida. And this is crazy. It is 47 degrees, maybe 50 degrees. Yeah, it was crazy. Crazy cold front that came through. It's not going to be that cold. I think the coldest we'll get after this is maybe mid 50s, then into the low 60s. Low 60s I can deal with. 40s is crazy in South Florida. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the house. Good morning. L. Johnson checking in Union, New Jersey. Marky Mann checking in from Sacramento. Barbie 007, happy Veterans Day. Thanking those who serve. Remember, freedom isn't free. True. Nathan Don, good morning. Leah, good morning from South Georgia. Nathan Don, thanks for the gifts. Leah, thank you for the gifts early. Ron Johnson, Ohio. Katarina, Gulf Coast, Alabama, good morning. Joel Greer from Fort Pierce, Barbie, South Florida. Shout out to South Florida. It's kind of cold for us right now. Joy Bells, Kentucky. Tim Rockwell, upstate New York. Joanna, Rochester, New York. Shout out to non-New York City, New York. Represented here. Marky Mark, Pinellas Park, Florida. Shout out to Tampa Bay. Shout out to, where was I in Tampa Bay? I was in Tampa, the city, and I was also in, what was the name of that town I was in? Can't remember the name of the town. I'll tell you in a second when I remember. Leah for the Go Popular. Thanks. Elizabeth, Kansas City. Linda Gale, good morning from St. Louis. Annie AFF from Kentucky. Grace Bristol from North Carolina. Nathan Don, Sanford, Florida. Happy Veterans Day. Leah, thanks for the hand hearts. Carla, Indiana, good morning. Angela J. Hi from, is that Massachusetts? M.A. Tiffany lost my spot. Tiffany Santa Pietro, happy Veterans Day. Thank you all who serving our country. Yes. Sam, everyone say L. Kim Davis. Who is L. Kim Davis? No, I just said it. Who is it? Rory B. Patriot, happy Veterans Day. Kara Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Sherry, 1967, Michigan. Sam, I already said that. Rory B. Patriot, good morning. Bosworth, Missouri. Jake Lancaster from Iowa, God's country. Fair enough. Christy, 1966, 305, Miami. Shout out to Miami. Again, we need to warm up here in South Florida. Philly Viv said, hometown is Philly, currently living in Miami Springs. All right, similar to me. I'm not in Miami Springs, but hometown is Philly. Shout out to Philly. Real PK Arnold. Good morning. Echoes 9711. Yeah, we got the free. I think it's cold everywhere in America right now. Bruce said, falling iguanas in Florida? Yeah, probably. I haven't seen them, but they probably are falling. Carolyn Rudder, Oakwood, Georgia. Good morning. Big Lou, New Jersey. Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. Echoes 9711. Shout out to the vets. Jennifer, good morning. Tennessee. User, Westchester, New York. Carl said, our high will hopefully reach the 40s. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't like cold weather. That's why I moved to South Florida, but we got it here today, too. Satine, 2025, Louisiana. Happiness now from Atlanta. Jennifer, gifter badge. Congrats. Nana Cat, good morning. Noel, good morning. Happy Veterans Day from Pleasant Hill, California. Shout out to people on the West Coast waking up early. Marky Man said it's 77 in Sacramento today. Well, what's the temperature right now, though? I mean, the high temperature today, according to, let's see what the weather app says. The high temperature today is going to get up to 66. So, yes, later on, we'll get about 20 more degrees of heat. Right now, we're barely hitting 50 degrees right now. But looking at the future weather, tomorrow's low in the high 50s. Then after that, everything is starting with the number 6. I don't mind temperature starting the low temperature. If it starts with number 6, I'm all right with that. In the winter, November, December, January, I accept it. I accept that that's part of the trade-off. The highs are in the 70s and 80s. That's all right. The lows, as long as it starts with a 6, I'm good. I can deal with that. But 40s is not good. LDG, thank you for the share. Marky Man says 51 degrees right now. Yes, that's the same thing we got. Bruce said West U.S. is hot, LA in the 90s, but it's not 90 degrees right now, though. I'm talking about right now. I don't mean the high for the day. I'm talking about right now, this exact moment. Karina says 39 degrees in Houston. Yes, it's cold everywhere. I look at the weather like every day because I'm outside often, so I'm always paying attention to this stuff. So Karina with the freeze, the snowman. Tiff Hart said 28 in Atlanta. Yeah, and Atlanta's supposed to be hot. 28 degrees? That's crazy. Chelsea said Colorado has better weather. We're in the 70s. Right now, it's 70 degrees in Colorado, Chelsea. I'm talking about right now, this exact minute. What is the temperature right now? Nanny Cat said 40 in Oklahoma, but wind chill feels like 25. Yeah, wind chill I don't like either. Quail Ridge, good morning from Lincoln, California. Tia from Charlotte. Lori B. Patriot. Bosworth said it's 32 degrees right now, right at freezing. Leah said, everyone please tap. Yes, please tap the screen, folks. Carl said right now it's 26. Yeah, bundle up, folks. Jennifer, 30 degrees in Southwest Tennessee. Elizabeth said 30 outside of Atlanta. Yeah, Chelsea said, I missed that. Right now it's 52. Okay, so it's actually a little bit warmer in Colorado than it is in South Florida, which is interesting. Steve Baven said 30 in Louisiana. Crazy. Ashton said it snowed in Charlotte last night. It doesn't even snow in North Carolina that often, though, right? Snowed in Charlotte, 39 in Kansas, 47 in Portland, 53 in Porterville, 30 degrees here. Snowed yesterday evening for a few minutes. Where is that? RMS Studios, 28 feels like 15 near St. Louis. Yeah, see this winter weather stuff. I'm not a big fan. I mean, it's winter. Whereas winter? It's not winter yet, right? It's fall right now. Winter doesn't start till December. But I'll take a week or two of actual cold. 40s as the low in South Florida, but other than that, we want 60s and up. As long as it's 60s and up, I'm happy. I like to run on the beach on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. That's the kind of weather I like. But anyway, chilly 77 in Bermuda. Okay, Bermuda is 77 right now. Maybe I got to go to Bermuda. So the topic here today, everybody, is I told y'all this. I touched on this yesterday. I told you that this was coming, and I told you I might need to do this. Now I actually need to do it. What happened with the elections, the off-year elections that happened last week, and what it means for the Republican Party. Now, the November 2025 elections, which was last week, this is New York, or at least the big outcomes that happened. You had the New York City mayoral election with Zohran Mamdani winning. We talked about that yesterday. You had the New Jersey gubernatorial election, which people predicted was probably going to go Democrat, and then people thought maybe the Republican had a chance, and the Republican thought they had a chance. They didn't really have a chance. They got blown out. And then in Virginia, people thought that the Republican might have a chance, and they didn't really have a chance. They got blown out. So L. Lincoln over there on Instagram says 24 in Nairobi, Kenya. So we are international. It's cold everywhere. So even in Kenya, it's cold. So this exposed some cracks in the GOP foundation, and this is a real thing. Might sound like it's just a conjecture if it's coming from somebody who is on the Democratic side trying to make them look good, but I'm not on any side, and this is a real thing. So Democrats took the governorships in New Jersey and Virginia. They won the New York City mayoral race by double digits, and they passed the redistricting measure, which I didn't mention yesterday, the redistricting in California. So this is Gavin Newsom saying we're going to redistrict California so that we can get more House seats as a response to what they claimed that the people in Texas were doing to get more House seats for the Republicans. Gavin Newsom said, I'm going to balance that out by doing the same thing in California. And in California, I believe that was called Prop 50. That vote passed. So now there will be more House Democrats from the state of California to balance out the more House Republicans from the state of Texas. So all of these things happened last week. Now, all of these things are expected to happen because New Jersey, again, usually when it came to the gubernatorial race, was there a serious chance the Republican was going to win? Not really. Same thing in Virginia. Was there a real chance? Not really. Even with the mayoral election in New York, was there a chance a Republican was going to win that mayoral race? Not really. And when it came to Gavin Newsom and the redistricting, I mean, he is the governor of California. It wasn't really a chance that was probably going to lose. It was probably a good chance all of these things are going to happen. Now, this could flip. First of all, that California thing could flip a bunch of Republican seats in 2026 in the midterms because those districts, the way they changed up the maps, is that now there'll be more Democratic voters, which will lead to more Democrats possibly winning House of Representative seats to go represent the state of California in Congress. And why that matters is because when there are more Democrats in the House of Representatives, then it'd be harder to get certain things passed by the Republicans if there are more Democrats as opposed to Republicans in those spots. And California, as we all know, is a very big state with a large population. Therefore, they get a lot of representatives. For those who don't understand how Congress works, there's the Senate and there's the House of Representatives. Both groups, they compose what we call Congress. Senate is 2 from every state. Every state gets 2 senators regardless of their size. But the House of Representatives is based on population. So a state like Rhode Island has very few representatives as opposed to a state like Texas or California because of their large populations. They have a lot more representatives. So they can send a lot more people and the number can fluctuate based on population. So California sending more Democrats to D.C. to represent not only the state, but also the country because they are voting on things that affect everybody. This all matters. So exit polls show, an exit poll, by the way, is just people getting asked when they leave the polls, who'd you vote for? And they could be lying, but for the most part, let's just assume that people are telling the truth. Exit polls showed that 60 to 70% of voters, the reason that they voted was based on affordability, energy costs, i.e. your light bill, your gas bill, that kind of stuff. Affordability, just how much stuff costs, and government dysfunction as the top issues. So 60 to 70% of voters said these are the reasons why they voted the way they voted. Affordability, i.e. the economy, energy costs, people not having any money, and government dysfunction. Right now, the elections happened last week in the midst of a government shutdown, which looks like it's probably going to be over probably by the end of the day, either today or tomorrow. Looks like some Democrats came over to the other side and agreed with the Republicans on something that's going to extend things, and it'll be the end of this argument about people getting SNAP benefits and all that. Looks like the government shutdown is going to be over pretty soon. If it's not over, maybe by the time we're done this live stream. Donald Trump just has to sign, got to pass through the Senate, which is going to do because the senators, Republicans have more control in the Senate, so they can basically push it through even if no Democrats cooperate. And then all Donald Trump has to do is sign it, and Donald Trump's going to sign it because the longer the shutdown goes, the worse he looks. He's going to sign it as soon as it hits his desk. He might even be able to use the auto pen. That's a joke. So these 3 things are how people voted, and those 3 things all work against the incumbent. This is how it usually works when it comes to elections. I've explained this to you all before. Whoever the incumbent is, and any time an election cycle comes around, the incumbent side that seems to have most of the control either has the control or it appears they have most of the control. They end up losing if costs are up, people are broke, and it looks like the government's not doing their job. And in the middle of a government shutdown is the epitome of the government not doing its job is shut down. They're not working because they literally are shut down. And everybody knows about the government shutdown. Even if you don't know the details of the government shutdown, how it happened, why it happened, and who's causing what, it makes it look like whoever's in charge is not doing their job. Well, who's in charge right now? Well, the Republicans have control of the White House. We all know Donald Trump is the president, and Republicans have a majority in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. So to the average everyday person who doesn't dive into the details of these things, I dive into some of the details, but not as much as others. People don't dive into any details. It just looks like the Republicans are in charge and the government is shut down. It means the Republicans are not working. So I'm going to vote who I'm going to vote for. I'm going to vote for the Democrats. Why? Because what it's looking like is that things aren't working. I can't pay my bills. Who's in charge? The Republicans? Okay, I'm going to vote for the Democrats. Things cost too much. Who's in charge? The Republicans? Okay, I'm going to vote for the Democrats. This may sound pretty simple and trite, ladies and gentlemen. But this is really how most people make their voting decisions. Most people, when they vote based on simple things like this. How am I feeling? How is life looking? If it's good, okay, let's vote for whoever's in charge to stay in charge because things are looking good for me. And if it's bad, let's vote for whoever's in charge to lose because things are looking bad for me. Because most people have this, it's a false belief, but it is a real belief to them that whomever is in charge is causing their situation. Usually it's not the government that's causing people's situation, it's people causing their own situation. But the average person doesn't take that kind of personal accountability. They want to blame it on whomever's in charge, and whomever's in charge, they're going to get the blame or the praise based on how things are going. And this is the reason why the Republicans took a hit last week, even though, again, these elections all happen in places that tend to lean blue anyway. So why would I be calling this the Republicans taking a hit? I'm going to tell you why. Now, Trump's absence from the ballot, not actually being on the ballot, but also the fact that he just didn't get really engaged in any of these elections. He didn't go campaign for Sears or Winsome Sears in Virginia. He didn't go campaign against Mamdani in New York that heavily, and he didn't really go campaign for a person who was running in New Jersey. He didn't really get involved in these, I think, because Donald Trump's a smart guy. He looked at the landscape and said, I don't want a loss on my record, and none of these look like I can sway the outcome is going to happen no matter what I do. So how about I just stay quiet and say nothing? That'd be like Donald Trump jumping into the gubernatorial race in California saying vote for the Republican candidate. The Republican's not going to win no matter what Trump says. And Donald Trump's smart enough to know there's some fights that are not worth fighting. So also there are some lingering disapprovals about Trump and the GOP in general. And because for the reasons that I already stated, and the GOP's reliance on Donald Trump. They're relying very heavily on Donald Trump rather than a coherent Republican strategy. This leaves the Republicans in a tough spot. This is what I was talking about. So voters in swing states and suburban districts, swing areas and suburban areas, they voted heavily against the Republicans, probably for poor messaging or lack of messaging, weak candidates, many of whom we can't even name, and no clear economic narrative, given that things aren't looking good for a lot of Americans right now economically, especially with the government shutdown happening and a lot of people missing their paychecks. So this was not just an off-year loss, some say, that it was a flashing red warning light for the Republican Party, who is trying to win on Trump's energy, but they don't have Trump himself, which is a warning to the Republican Party because Donald Trump is not running in any more elections. So this is something to be thinking about for 2026, where Trump probably will get involved, and 2028, where Trump may be involved, but he's on his way out. And if he is not heavily involved, and there's a lot of questions. So we'll get to that in a minute. Let me introduce myself first. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre All Day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our focus over here is helping you make sales without speaking, how to close deals without speaking, how to have authority, command, get people to know, like, trust, and follow you before you say a single word. We call this the Power Presence. We have a whole program based around this. Go to the link in my profile. You can learn more about that. This is Power Presence Protocol.com. So those of you who want to make more sales, you want to raise your prices, and you want people to remember you, even if they never talk to you, that is called the Power Presence. And that covers 85% of communication, which is what we all know as nonverbal communication. You master your nonverbal communication, then your verbal communication becomes really easy, and it doesn't even have to do the heavy lifting. Heavy lifting is done by everything that you say when you're not talking. And if you want to master that, go to the link in my profile. You learn more about that. Have me as your direct coach in the process. So what we were just talking about, Donald Trump's magnetism still moves the base. Now, if he's on the ballot, meaning he's actually running for something, such as 2024, turnout jumps. More people come and actually vote when Donald Trump is involved. Some people come out to vote against him. A lot of people come out to vote in favor of him. And he has down ballot impact. So if Donald Trump is on the ballot, period, since people are already voting and they're voting for Trump, they tend to vote for all the other Republicans on the ballot simply because they're already there. Might as well vote for all these other Republicans because those are the people on Donald Trump's side. And again, this is the reason. This is how most people make their decisions when it comes to voting. If Donald Trump's not on the ballot, then you have to find a reason, Republicans, to get people to go vote. And if you don't have a reason, and that reason usually has to be a galvanizing figure, an individual person who gets people excited. I talked about this yesterday. Zohran Mamdani got more people to show up to vote for the New York mayoral election this time around, 70% more than Eric Adams got to show up when he won 4 years ago. And that's not because more people just all of a sudden got interested in politics per se. They got interested in the candidate. Same thing with Donald Trump. People voted for Donald Trump not because they got interested in politics, because they were interested in Donald Trump, and Donald Trump happened to be doing politics. Same thing Zohran Mamdani just did in New York. Same thing Barack Obama did when he ran the first time. Is you have to have a compelling figure to get people to show up. The Republicans right now have a compelling figure. It's Donald Trump. The issue is Donald Trump's not running anymore. So who's the compelling figure for 2026, or figures for 2026? And who's going to be the compelling figure for 2028? And will any of these people need Donald Trump's support to go out and do what they do? Of course, they're going to get some of it, the same way that Barack Obama, when he was out of office or leaving office in 2016, he campaigned to help Hillary Clinton. And that helped her get some votes, but Donald Trump was more galvanizing. He won the election. And same thing Donald Trump will probably do in 28. Whoever is going to be the nominee, let's assume as of today that it'll be J.D. Vance. Let's say J.D. Vance is the nominee in 2028. Donald Trump's going to do his stuff and say his things to get people to go vote for J.D. Vance, but Donald Trump's not on the ballot. So it's not going to be as strong of an impact. J.D. Vance is going to have to carry it himself and prove that he can lead, and it's not just Donald Trump kind of carrying him into the White House. Also, it's going to be who are they going against? If it's J.D. Vance against right now looking like Gavin Newsom, or will be Kamala Harris, I think it's going to be probably Gavin Newsom. But assuming that that's the race, J.D. Vance is going to have to show that he can carry his own weight, pull his own weight, aside from what Donald Trump does. Donald Trump's cosign is going to help, but the candidates are going to have to stand on their own too as well. This is going to apply as well in 2026. Who's going to do this? So his magnetism does move things. And 2020 and in 2024 showed that Donald Trump's rallies and his personality, based on exit polls, that they drive engagement that no other Republican has replicated in modern times. He gets people to show up. Other people can't get to show up, meaning the voters. And as I have explained to you all, most elections come down to not the undecided voters or the voters who can go either way. There's a small percentage of people who can go either way. Most elections come down to understanding that most voters are going to vote the same way every time. Most people who do vote, when they vote, will either always vote Democrat or always vote Republican. There is a small percentage of people who always vote, and they can vote either way. That's a very small percentage of people who I will vote Democrat this time, but Republican next time. Then the majority of outcomes in elections come down to not those people. Yes, it is those people because they're vocal and they talk a lot and they pay attention. So they are more informed voters, the ones who always vote, but they can go Democrat or Republican. Those are very informed voters. But really, the election winning or losing comes down to getting people who are going to vote Democrat if they vote to change that if to I am going to vote. That's how you win. Is getting your indifferent voters to come out and actually vote Democrat. They always vote Democrat if they vote. Is getting them to take that if away and actually vote. Same thing with Republicans. There are people out there who will always vote Republican if they vote. Is how do we get those people to take away the if and actually vote? Barack Obama got indifferent Democrats to go out and vote, and they voted Democrat. Barack Obama won. Donald Trump got indifferent Republicans to go out and actually vote. We already know what they're going to vote. We just had to get them to vote, and they voted. Joe Biden didn't have to get people to do anything because you could vote from home. I'm not going to touch on that one. I already been suspended too many times on TikTok, so I'm not going to speak on that one. But y'all get what I'm saying there without saying it. Donald Trump dependent energy is not sustainable for the Republican Party because Donald Trump is about to go away. Donald Trump's going to be gone. In 2026, I think he's going to get involved. He's going to get engaged in 2026. Why is he going to get engaged in 2026? Is because he wants the Republican Party to keep control of Congress, because if they keep control of Congress, especially both sides of Congress, then Donald Trump can move through whatever agenda he wants to move through with as little friction as possible. He's still going to have some friction. I mean, right now, there's a government shutdown, technically still shut down right now. And it was, 40 some days this government shutdown, even though the Republicans have control of both sides of Congress. So Democrats try to make it seem like, well, it's all about the Republicans. But the reason there's a shutdown is because the Democrats slowed down what the Republicans wanted to do. So even with a minority, they can still slow things down because we have a system of checks and balances that doesn't allow any party without enough numbers to just do whatever they want, which is a good thing for all of us, even though there may be some inconveniences in the process, such as a government shutdown. But if the Republicans just controlled everything, they can do whatever they want, but they might eventually start doing some stuff that you don't like, even if you're a Republican. So it's good that they have that balance. And at the same time, again, there are some trade-offs of that balance. So without Donald Trump around, there's less enthusiasm, number one. The GOP's infrastructure, as currently constructed, can't close the gap. Donald Trump creates a big gap of excitement that no other Republican has right now. And to be honest, the Democrats don't have it either. Democrats don't have anybody that's that exciting right now. I mean, Mamdani was exciting for New York, but he can only mayor in New York. Gavin Newsom is not that exciting, and he's nowhere near Donald Trump's level. What the Democrats have working for them is that all of them combined are making an argument that we, as a group, are going against Donald Trump. And that's enough of a galvanizing message, strong enough that as the incumbent, it can work against Donald Trump. As the incumbent party that's in power right now is working against Trump in these off-year elections. What's really going to be interesting is what happens about a year from now in those midterms. So the 2025 turnout dropped about 5 to 7% in many red areas, even as Democrats were certain. Democrats were picking up attention because a lot of Republicans just didn't vote. That's what happened last week. A lot of Republicans just didn't show up. Republican voters, that is, citizens. They didn't show up to vote. Why? Because there's no exciting reason to vote. Now, in these elections, of course, there's usually fewer people voting. But 2026 is a more important outcome because that determines what the president will be able to get done or not get done in the following year. Also determines whether or not he's going to get impeached for the third time. Because if the Democrats take control of enough of Congress in 2026, Donald Trump guaranteed will be impeached for a third time. He's not going to be removed, but he will be impeached if the Democrats get control. So just keep that one in mind. So that'll be good theater, good content for me if and when it happens. Now, the Democrats' 2025 messaging was very focused and very simple. Here was their message. Affordability, meaning you can't afford your life. Housing, that's part of your life. Childcare, that's also part of your life. And just the economy in general. Everything was around money. I told y'all this before. Elections usually come down to money in several ways. Number one, how much money can you spend to win the election? And number two, how much money do people have or think they have or expect to get in the future? If they're positive about the future, then you say, let's keep doing what we're already doing, i.e. vote in the same person who's in and let them get a second term. This is Bill Clinton in 1996. Then there's, if you don't like the way your money situation is going and you are nervous about your money, then let's get the incumbent out and let's try somebody different, i.e. Donald Trump winning in 2024 over Joe Biden / Kamala Harris. People didn't like how things are going economically. Donald Trump hammered the Democrats on that point. He won the election. Yes, there was the immigration thing too, but the economy was a bigger issue because more people are affected by the economy than are affected by immigration, at least for now. And this was the Democrats' entire message. On top of the message that kind of underlined all of this is we got to go against Donald Trump. And that has worked. So one thing that I've been saying about the Democrats is that they've been going on and on and on about resisting and going against Donald Trump for 10 years. And the message was starting to wear thin. But when it came to election time, that we are resisting Donald Trump message got people to show up and vote because there's a lot of citizens who are aligned with that message of go against Donald Trump. We don't like Donald Trump. Go against Donald Trump. So anything we can do to go against Donald Trump, we'll do it, even if it means voting for a Democrat mayor in New York City. What the hell does that have to do with going against Donald Trump? Not much, but it works on people. That's the whole point, is it works. And this is a results-based business. Zohran Mamdani mentioned Donald Trump damn near every speech that he did. Why? He's not running against Donald Trump. You're a mayor. He's a president. Why are you mentioning Donald Trump? Because mentioning Donald Trump in a negative way will get a bunch of people who don't like Donald Trump to come vote for you. That's why he did it. Good strategy by Zohran Mamdani. So the candidates in New Jersey and Virginia, they just ran their elections based on I'm a problem solver. And we have problems right now in this country, epitomized by the fact that Donald Trump is the president. And if you vote for me here in New Jersey or here in Virginia, I'm going to solve that problem. Now, logically, does that make any sense whatsoever? The answer is no, it doesn't. Logically, that makes no sense. So I'm going to vote for you to be the Democratic governor in Virginia, and you're going to solve the problems that exist in our state with our citizens because of Donald Trump. What exactly are you going to do? There's no real answer to the question. It didn't matter. Again, folks, it doesn't matter. It's not about what's logically true or logically provable. It's about how people feel. People judge by feel, not by facts. So any of you who gets too caught up in quote unquote facts or the facts, that doesn't really matter. What matters is how people feel. You can control how people feel. The facts are completely irrelevant. And if you can't control how people feel, guess what? The facts are still completely irrelevant because somebody else is going to control how they feel and they're going to move them to action. And this is how generally elections work, especially when you have masses of human beings. Masses of people are not that smart. So GOP messaging leaned on things like culture and blame for the shutdown, things like culture around the LGBTQ stuff, around the ICE removals of undocumented people, those kind of things. Do people care about those things? Yes. But you got to remember that people have to focus on the main things that people need for survival. The main things people need for survival are what? Food, clothing, shelter. If you can focus on these three things, there's nothing anybody can say that isn't one of these three that's going to supersede them. Food, clothing, shelter is number one. And that all is connected to money. When people feel like they have money and they're optimistic about their financial future, then that means they believe they can afford food, clothing, shelter. They will keep what's going. If they don't feel that way, they feel the opposite. They don't feel like they can afford food, clothing, shelter, or they won't be able to afford food, clothing, shelter, then whoever is in charge, let's go against whoever that is or whoever they represent. So the Republicans are in charge. People feel like they can't afford food, clothing, shelter. Okay, let's vote for a Democrat. Doesn't matter who the Democrat is. Doesn't matter what the Democrat says. Doesn't matter their platform. Doesn't matter if they can do any of the shit that they say. Zohran Mamdani, Kamala Harris. Doesn't matter if they can actually do it. All that matters is that you don't like how it's looking. And this is the current situation. So let's try the opposite situation. And in America, we tend to have two options, Democrat, Republican. So this is the situation. And this is why it worked. Now, Republicans are lacking right now in economic clarity, which makes sense because the economy to the average mass of people does not look good. Let's look at where we are right now. So right now, inflation is always happening. Inflation is not some new thing. Inflation is always occurring because the government is always printing money. Our money is not backed by anything real. We're not on the gold standard, meaning every dollar that we put out there is not backed by actual anything of real value except that cheap piece of paper and our belief that the system is really a system. As soon as we stop believing in the system, the money ceases to matter. But we still believe in the system, so the money still exists. And every time we put more money in circulation, the value of the money that's already in circulation goes down. Because when you have too much of something, when you oversupply something, the value of each piece of it goes down. When there is little of something, i.e. scarcity, the value of things go up. And we keep printing more money. The United States is not pulling money out of circulation. We just keep putting more and more in. So the value of our dollar goes down more, which means a dollar does not buy today what it bought yesterday. So if you could buy a carton of eggs for $6 6 months ago, now that same carton might cost $7. Not because the eggs are more valuable, but because the dollar that the egg seller what they could do with that dollar before, that $6 before, they can't do it with $6 anymore. Now they need $7 to do the same thing. So they have to raise the price on you to make up for what they can no longer do with $6. Now they need $7. Now the cost of eggs is $7. Then we keep printing money. The cost goes up to $8. Then it goes up to $9. Then it's $12. Then it's $15 for eggs. And the costs keep going up. And as those costs keep going up, people have to spend more and more of their own dollars to take care of food, clothing, shelter. As that happens, people notice that they have less and less money. And they say, well, who's responsible for this? The answer actually is they are responsible for it, but most people don't want to take that level of accountability. So they say, who's responsible for this? And they give the wrong answer, but the one they believe, which is those people in DC. They're the ones in charge, right? So they blame them. And this is how people decide who to vote for. And politicians understand this, so they just leverage whatever is expedient for them. The problem is for the everyday citizens, and that costs are going to keep going up because the government is going to keep printing money. I don't think we're getting back on the gold standard. And aside from there being complete anarchy and our entire economic system collapsing, meaning the dollar being worth nothing and we have complete anarchy and blood in the streets, literal blood in the streets, this is going to keep happening. And since most people work for wages that are not rising as fast as inflation is rising, more and more people are essentially going broke and becoming poor. This is the reason why as time moves on, in the next 25 to 50 years, there will not be a middle class. There will be a lower class and there'll be an upper class, but there will be no middle. Why? Because of what I just explained to you. Costs are going up and people's income is not going up as fast as costs are, which means more and more people are becoming poor or broke or just being underwater financially. And the only way this can be fixed is, well, there's no one way it can be fixed. I'm not even going to try to pretend that there's one simple answer to this. The real answer that I give to people, to a man individually, is that you need to focus on how do I become rich so that I'm way ahead of any type of financial shortfall so that I can be part of the rich instead of the poor. If you consider yourself to be in the middle right now, you will no longer have the option of being in the middle. There will be no middle class. I want everybody to understand that. I did a whole live stream on this several months ago, and I did podcast episodes on it as well. There will be no middle class. So any of you consider yourselves middle class, you won't be able to consider yourself middle class in it's 2025. I say about 2040. There won't be a middle class, and it might happen faster than that. On top of this, you have artificial intelligence taking jobs. We can see that jobs are being taken. We can see that knowledge work is no longer knowledge work because computers can do knowledge work faster, better, and more efficiently than humans. Excuse me. So a lot of people with knowledge work jobs are being replaced. We can see that any computer-based jobs where you're just on a computer and you're doing rote, continuous, the same thing over and over again, those people are being replaced. Next is going to be robotics work, but robotic manual tasks are going to be replaced by computers. It's going to start with simple stuff, then it's going to go to more complex stuff. So right now in a place like Wendy's or Popeyes, there are machines now being rolled out and sold to these companies that can make the fries and the onion rings instead of a human doing that. So there are humans getting replaced by robots doing simple stuff like that, like flipping the burgers at McDonald's. Then soon is going to be more advanced things like putting the pieces on a car, like a, what do they call that? The assembly line. When you're putting cars together, that's going to be the next piece. They're going to be robots doing that. Those people are going to get replaced. Then it's going to get to more complex stuff like construction workers building buildings. And there'll be more and more things being done by computers that don't need to be done by humans. And those humans whose work now has no value because no humans are needed for that job and they don't have any other skills, how are they going to make money? Well, the answer is they won't. And this is all going to happen over the next 20 to 25 to 50 years. This is absolutely happening. And there'll be fewer and fewer opportunities to make money available for more and more people. There will be people who they own these means of productions. And there will be people who are subject to being replaced by these means of productions. And again, that's why there's going to be a huge lower class and there's going to be a smaller upper class. So if you think there's oligarchs dominating things now, all right, wait about 25 years. And who you call oligarchs now, you call them the billionaires. But in the future, it's going to be people with $10 million are going to be oligarchs. Why? Because there's going to be so many people in the lower class because they're going to be being replaced. And you won't even need that much money to be in. You won't need $1 billion like Elon Musk to be in the upper class. And the upper class is going to be this many people. The lower class is going to be this many people. But again, I talked about that in detail. If you want to hear the episode where I talked about that, let me give you the episode number for those of you who want to hear it, where I explained it. I explained it on my podcast even better than I explained it in these live streams. So if you want to hear me talk about why there will be no middle class, that was episode number 3143 of my podcast. You can find that on YouTube, 3143, or find it on Spotify or Apple, is where I described and laid out in detail in a 4-part series why there will be no middle class. Now, what does this have to do with politics? What has to do with politics is that these politicians, they're supposed to be these smart people who can figure things out. They're supposed to be coming up with a solution to this. The problem is they don't have a solution. There is no solution, no easy solution to this, number one. Number two, most of them are going to be in the upper class. So are they really incentivized to solve your problem? Not really. It might seem like they are. They may be able to put across the affect that they care, but do they really need to care? Probably not, because it's not a human need or priority for them, though it is for you. And the masses of people are always going to be looking to someone else to solve their problem instead of actually solving it themselves. And you're looking at people who don't really need to solve your problem, but need to pretend like they're trying to solve your problem. You're putting yourself in a precarious position, which is why I've continually stressed to my audiences over the years. And this is not something I started talking about when I started doing these live streams. So those of you who are only know me from these, I've been talking about this for years, way before this. Is you don't want to depend on the government. You don't want to be looking to the government or relying on the government. You can listen and pay attention and talk about it if you wish, as I'm doing right now, but this should not be your main focus. Main focus needs to be on making sure that you, your household, and your community are taken care of, regardless of what the government does. You want to put yourself above government decisions, generally speaking. So back to where I was. Republicans don't have clarity on what they're doing economically right now. The Democrats' only clarity is, hey, things are bad and the Republicans are in charge, so vote for us. That's their clarity. It's really that simple. The Democratic clarity on economics is, hey, everybody, things look bad. You don't have money. The Republicans are in charge, so that means you should vote for the Democrat. That's pretty much their message. Now, no Democrat candidate came out and said it in that way, but that's pretty much all they need to say, and that'd be enough. So the Republicans, being the ones in charge, knowing this, they had to figure out, well, how do we massage this and talk about it in a way that makes it sound okay and that y'all should just trust us? Well, they didn't figure that out. That's why they lost. That's why they're not looking good right now. So voters cannot identify what the GOP is about other than Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's not actively out there saying, hey, I'm part of the GOP, vote for the GOP. Well, of course they lost. So exit polls showed that independents didn't see the party as serious about solving cost of living problems. This is what some say. The Republicans don't look serious about solving cost of living problems. Well, the problem is No politician or political party is going to solve the cost of living problem. So any of you who is waiting for that to happen, grab a Snickers bar because you won't be going anywhere for a while. The cost of living problem will not be solved by politics. Let me say that again. Any of you who has a cost of living problem right now, or you foresee a cost of living problem, this will not be solved by politics, will not be solved by politicians. Now, there are a bunch of politicians who crow about this and they make it seem like they're going to solve the problem or they're trying to solve the problem. This is Bernie Sanders doing a nationwide tour talking about fighting the oligarchy, which he's been trying to fight the oligarchy since the 90s. He's been trying to fight the oligarchy for 30 plus years, and he has failed the entire time. Yet he's still going on tour this year telling you how the oligarchy is the problem and they're causing all of your issues. This is a nonsense argument by Bernie Sanders, but it works because most people are waiting for someone else to solve their problems. So this is the reason why Bernie Sanders is Bernie Sanders, and every other politician is who they are. So the GOP still has potential. All right. So Donald Trump won in 2024. That proved that working class and minority voters can still vote red with the message being strong enough. Key point here, the message got to be strong enough. So his gains in New Jersey, his gains in Florida shows that there is appetite for these pushes by people like Trump. It just depends on where things are when the election happens. So about a year from now, we'll see what the temperature of things is. If the temperature is good for the Republicans, they have a chance to maintain their stronghold. But if it doesn't look good, they could lose very easily. So the base erodes without any depth when it comes to policy. So Donald Trump's charisma can't be bottled up by somebody else. He has his charisma himself. The problem is, again, he ain't always going to be around. So his successors, they may be able to, I don't think any Republicans trying to mimic the Donald Trump style. There's more Democrats trying to copy him than Republicans, actually. But if any Republican tries to mimic him, they won't be able to do it as well, and they're just going to look like cheap imitations. So hopefully they don't do that. I don't think J.D. Vance would do that. So moderates and independents and just indifferent voters, it shows that the energy isn't enough necessarily to govern for now. But again, that's with the asterisk that Donald Trump's not involved. He gets involved, changes the whole story. Now, stronger candidates can bridge the gap. So if you have candidates who are disciplined, articulate, and they have some credibility, they could stabilize whatever happens with the GOP after Donald Trump. This is the reason why people are looking at Rubio, they're looking at J.D. Vance right now as the top candidates. They are definitely articulate. Now, discipline, I don't really know. And what are they going to say about the economy? We don't know because they don't have the megaphone right now. They don't have the microphone right now. So other figures, you got Glenn Youngkin, you got Brian Kemp. They demonstrate that calm conservatism can win swing voters, but we'll see. Brian Kemp was in Georgia, and Youngkin, what was he? Was he in Virginia? I forget what state he's from. But anyway, GOP primary culture rewards the entertainment, at least over the last 10 years, because Donald Trump has dominated it. The only primary we had was in 2016. It wasn't really a primary in 2020. It wasn't one in 2024. He just dominated. All right, that's what it is. So it looks like someone who has the type of charisma, non-political charisma, can win. But we'll see. I think the game goes back to being the normal game in 2028. But I think J.D. Vance is going to have such a stronghold that there's not really going to be a primary that year either. I think the next primary might be not until 2032. For the Republicans, especially if they don't win. If the Democrats win in 2028, the general election for president, then 2032, there's going to be a serious primary in the Republican Party. Now, if J.D. Vance wins in 2028, then maybe not. If things go well for him, then he might not get primaried by anybody else. Now, a fringe candidate can rise through viral outrage, not being really grounded in policy, and it may cause credibility with general election voters, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think if somebody tries to come out and Donald Trump the game, I don't think anybody's going to succeed at it. I don't think anyone can succeed at Donald Trumping the game on either side politically. Remember Stephen A. Smith, they were looking at him like he might be a candidate. Notice that nobody's talking about that anymore because obvious that he couldn't win. Only people being talked about right now are all active politicians. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio on the Republican side. And on the Democrat side, you have AOC, you got Buttigieg, you have Gavin Newsom, you got Kamala Harris. All active, career-long politicians. So it's going back to normal. Donald Trump was an anomaly, and nobody can copy what Donald Trump did coming from the outside and actually building up any momentum. Nobody is close. Now, Republicans can win if they can get a clear message and be disciplined with the message. Make America affordable again. That might be one that they want to try. The issue is they're going to get blamed for making it unaffordable in the first place. So I don't know if that one might backfire. So if they can focus on having the right energy, bringing down inflation, which I'm not sure how they can do that, and making sure people can afford their lifestyles, those all can help. Issue is, how do you sell that? With your opponent saying you're the one who caused the issue, now you're talking about you're going to solve it. I'm not sure that's going to work. So they got to figure this out. Now they're going to have to figure this out one way or another. They got a year to figure it out for the midterms, and they got 2 more years to figure it out for the general in 2028. Now, grievance politics. Some say this alienates the moderates. Those are people who go either way, and suburban voters. I'm not sure about that. I say it depends on what the grievance is. I think Donald Trump's emphasis on immigration in 2016 and again in 2024 helped him immensely. And that's grievance politics. Grievance politics is basically people being mad about something and you keep talking about it and using it to get them to vote for you. Now, of course, the economy is always something you can bring up. But outside of that, the grievance politics of Donald Trump in 2024, he said, we're going against all this woke shit. We're going against all this progressive shit. And we're going against all this bringing immigrants into the country with impunity. Those are all grievance politics, and it worked. But I don't think you can keep doing that over and over again. So there is an argument for that. And you already won. So it's not like you can keep saying it. It's not like Donald Trump, if he was running again in 2028, he's not. But if he was, he couldn't say, hey, we're going to stop all this crazy immigration. Well, you already stopped the crazy immigration. So he can't use that again. He would have to come up with a different message. That's the issue. One of the core issues of leadership, for those of you who plan on being in leadership positions in your life, is figuring out how to keep galvanizing the same audience, but different versions of the same message. It's not like you got to come up with 1,000 different motivational messages for your audience. You probably can't. You got to have about 5 or 10, and you got to figure out 1,000 different ways to say the same 5 things. That's what a sports coach has to do. That's what political leaders have to do. This ain't the same stuff. They just got to come up with different ways to say it and different reasons to talk about it to keep people engaged. So if you actually said literally the same thing over and over again, people start tuning you out. If people tune you out, you can't win an election. So anger-only campaigns have diminishing returns. This is the second law of economics, the marginal diminished return. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. Eventually, the effect just gets lower. Yes, this is true. So 2024 was, again, we're going against all this progressive stuff that the Biden administration represents, such as the immigration. That worked. What do you say in 2028? What do you say as a Republican in 2028? This is a question that must be answered within the next 3 years. 2.5, really, because they got to bring a candidate out. Now, Democrat strength is not inevitable. The Democrats are not unimpeachable and unbeatable here. Unimpeachable, no pun intended. Voters are frustrated with both parties. And I think, if you ask me, aside from just Democrat, Republican, who has power, but if you ask me just generally, I think over the last 10 years, from the time Donald Trump came down that escalator to now, what's happened is, number one, more American citizens are aware of what's happening in politics. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, his presence got more people paying attention to politics. Again, for better or worse. Number two, Donald Trump's messaging about, first of all, the mainstream media, secondly, about the swamp in D.C., and third, his ongoing battles with politicians, and then battling back with him, has gotten more people to notice that a lot of what happens in politics and in the mainstream media is just a whole bunch of theater and not a lot of substance. Donald Trump's presence has gotten a lot of people to notice that. And number three is led to the conclusion that a lot of people now see that a lot of people who we used to look at as, let's respect them and listen to what they say because of their position, i.e. people on TV, people who write for the New York Times, people with TV shows on CNN, people, the women on The View, politicians working in D.C., these people were generally respected because of the job they had, regardless of what they were actually doing, because most of us weren't paying attention. But now we're paying attention and we get to hear them all the time. And social media has them talking all the time. We can see the clips and hear the things that they say and see the things that they write. A lot of people are waking up and realizing that these people are empty suits. They're just talking, saying a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really mean anything. They're just playing the theater game, and they're just playing people to keep themselves in the headlines and keep people engaged, but they're not actually doing anything of substance. Donald Trump's presence has gotten people to notice all three of these things. So generally, I think what's happened is more and more Americans are just completely disaffected when it comes to politics, period. They just don't trust politicians at all. The level of distrust for the average politician is much higher now than it was 10 years ago. Now, I attribute that to the presence of Donald Trump. It's not even Donald Trump told people to do it. His very presence made people pay attention to politics, notice what people were saying and notice the TDS, people just getting so angry about him, they would just say anything to try to make him look bad. And it got people to think, like, wait a minute, this is not even making sense. On either side, is it making any sense? And I think fewer people trust the government than ever before. And it was Jeff Bezos, by the way, he bought the Washington Post newspaper. You know, Jeff Bezos is the Amazon guy. So he buys the Washington Post and he put out a letter. This is right around the time of the election of last year, when he told his staff at the Washington Post, we're not going to endorse a candidate for president. Y'all can write about it, but we're not going to endorse a candidate. And one of the things that he said in the letter that he wrote, it was an open letter. He put it out so everybody could see it, but it was written to his staff. He said, when you do polls of American citizens, what are the entities that they trust the least? For years, the number one leading entity of distrust was Congress, meaning the least trusted entity in all of America was Congress for many years. But what happened is the mainstream media took their spot and became the number one least trusted entity in America. The mainstream media was less trusted than Congress. And that happened during the tenure of Donald Trump. People stopped trusting the mainstream media because the mainstream media overdid themselves trying to make Donald Trump look bad. And then Congress was second worst. I think Congress has gone back to taking the leading, quote unquote, spot of being the least trusted entity in America, especially after this government shutdown. A bunch of people haven't gotten paychecks. A bunch of people got furloughed. People are wondering, are they going to even get the money that they were supposed to get? People not coming to work, flights getting canceled, all of this stuff. This is all Congress. And fewer people are trusting Congress because of these things that they've done. And I'm bringing all that up to say more people are aware of it now. Congress is already not trusted, but now it's just worse. The trust is just lower now than it has ever been. So the good news for politicians, good news actually, first of all, for the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, is that there is more opening and more potential for someone who is not a traditional politician to get a chance to get their foot in the door in politics. There's a chance. Are they actually going to do it? I'm not sure, but there's a chance now because Donald Trump opened up a big gap in the system. Number two is it gives more chance to any Democrat or Republican running for office. They have a chance to win, even if they're running in a place where normally their side never wins, i.e. a Republican running in a heavily Democrat area or a Democrat running in a highly Republican area. Why? Because I believe more and more voters they've emotionally removed themselves from being completely loyal to a political party. Because I think more people are seeing that all of this is a big game and that none of it is really designed to help the average citizen, regardless of his Democrat or Republican, which means people's votes are more up for grabs than ever before. As of today, I do believe that that's true. And when Donald Trump leaves, I think that's going to stick, that more people are willing to vote either side based on who the candidate is rather than loyalty to a party because they've been exposed. I think all of the government, all of DC has been exposed over the last 10 years, not fully exposed to where anybody can vote for anybody. Most of you who are listening, if you're an active voter, you're probably going to vote pretty loyal to your side, Democrat, Republican, because that's what you do. But there are more people who are willing to go anyway, just because, or does not vote at all. So the Democrat strength is not inevitable. They are not unbeatable. All right. Many people just don't like the national direction. All right. Forget about who the candidate is. People just don't like the way things are going, period. Which leads to more possibility of just overall anarchy. People just saying, let's just tear this whole situation down, meaning the current government system. So many of you sometimes ask me about term limits. It's not going to happen until we tear the system down. Can we get more than a two-party system? That's not going to happen until we tear the whole system down. Why? Because the only way these things happen is if the people working in the system agree to change the system, which would mean removing themselves from their own positions of power. All right, would you vote for that? If you're the person working there? Probably not. So that's the reason why we're at this impasse. Now, failure to modernize the outreach. I think this is true on both sides because I'll get to that in a second. So outreaching to women, outreaching to independents, outreaching to young professionals will make 2026 and 2028 either huge opportunities or huge catastrophes for both sides because the Democrats, they leaned for years on this. Let's just get celebrities. And we found out bringing celebrities in is not enough in 2024. Kamala probably paid more celebrities than any candidate in history, and she still lost. She had Taylor Swift, she had Beyonce, she had Megan Thee Stallion, she had some rappers, she had, who else she had? She had Oprah Winfrey, and then Oprah called like 20 of her friends, and they were all on Zoom. You remember that Oprah interview? And where Oprah claimed that she wasn't paid to do that. So Kamala spent $1 billion on a whole bunch of celebrities and still lost. Taylor Swift, she put out the message and everybody was all excited. Oh my God, Taylor Swift has co-signed Kamala Harris to be president. Remember, everybody was all excited about that? Now, how'd that turn out? Right, so that doesn't work anymore. So Democrats had to figure out an actual message aside from we're going against Donald Trump. That works now, and it'll work in 2026. What are they going to do in 2028? Democrats must answer this question. It can't just be anti-Trump, and it can't just be let's roll out a celebrity and everybody's going to vote for us. Those don't work anymore. Those won't work anymore in 2028. The celebrity thing is over, and let's go against Trump will work in 2026. 2028, they have to have an answer. The Republicans, for the last 10 years, they've been eating really well off the fact that Donald Trump exists. All right, Donald Trump is retiring. He'll be gone in 2028. What's their message? So 2028 is going to be a very interesting year for elections just because of those two reasons, because both sides have to figure out who they are. Donald Trump's around right now, so the Republicans have an identity, but when he leaves, the Republicans have no identity. Democrats have no identity right now. Their identity is anti-Trump. Republicans' identity is pro-Trump, but Trump's going to leave. So now each one of them needs to figure out who are they, because both of them are focused on the same thing. One on the positive side, one on the negative side. So both of them got to figure out who the hell they are and what they're about. So 2025, we see the Democrats dominated. These are Democrat-leaning places. But at the same time, again, they both got to figure out their message. A professionalized GOP strategy could reshape the brand. Now, this is doable. Those of you who've been following politics for a while, you know some of the people who helped engineer the political system that helped the Democrats become the Democrats. You remember people like Newt Gingrich. You remember political commentators like Bill O'Reilly, Rush Limbaugh. These people helped the Republicans really, really nail in their messaging that led to George W. Bush having 2 terms, that led to the anti-message against Barack Obama during his second term. Barack Obama won 2 terms, but there was a strong push against him during his second term that opened the door for, y'all remember the Tea Party? They didn't go far, but the Tea Party, it created an opening for somebody to step into, and that opening was stepped into by Donald Trump. All right, those people helped with the messaging. So when you get the right messaging by the Republican Party and a consistent message by the Republican Party, they can get right back into a position of power. But that back then was a consistent message by the group. It wasn't one person. The Republicans have right now one person dominating the whole message. It's like having one player on a basketball team who's really good and they're just dominating the game, and you win all the games because this player is just dominating. But what happens when that player leaves? Is the rest of the team any good? So the Republicans did this again during the Clinton years. They said we got to regroup. We ended up with George W. Then the Obama years, they said we got to regroup. We ended up with a very strong Republican message. Republicans had a very strong message around 2010. About 2010 to 2016, there was a very strong Republican message, even though Obama was president, because they were galvanized as a group. There was a group message against the Democrats. That's when I believe the Republican Party was at its strongest. It's strong now just because of Trump. But the party itself is, I'm not sure they got much. And this is the warning for the Republican Party going into 2026 and 2028. So the Democratic Party, they invest heavily in this outreach, data-driven outreach, being on new media, i.e. social media, podcasting, et cetera, and training stronger spokespeople. This is the thing the Democrats have done actually a good job of. Democrats have very strong spokespeople. Who are the people in the Democratic Party? Give me names in the comments. Who are people who represent the Democrats, whether politicians or citizens, who are consistently hammering the Democrat message that you just know their names? Just give me some names. People who are consistently giving you the Democrat message and making sure that you know about it. Who are these people? So Bernie Sanders is one. You have, and he's a politician. You have Jasmine Crockett. She's made herself well known. AOC has made herself well known. That guy Harry, he's made himself well known. The View, well known. Jasmine Crockett, well known. Taylor Swift, not so much, but I get what you're saying. AOC, yes. Barack Obama still. Who's Ginger? I don't know who that is. Gavin Newsom is another one. Kamala Harris is another one. Ilhan Omar is another one. Ayanna Pressley is another one. Dean Withers, Hakeem Jeffries, Whoopi Goldberg. So you see all these names? Like they have all these people. Nina Turner, AOC. They have all these people. They have a consistent message. The problem is their messages just go against Donald Trump. That's the problem with their message. The problem with their message, even though it's consistent, is that this message will expire in 2028. So this message, remember, there used to be a cartoon back in the day called Inspector Gadget. He would read the message. He would say, this message will self-destruct. So this whole message of going against Donald Trump will self-destruct in 3 years. They got to come up with a better message. Actually, 2.5, because they're going to start campaigning in early 2027. 2028, excuse me. So they got to come up with a better message. This message will self-destruct, even though they have it. Now, who are the people on the Republican side pushing the Republican message? Who are they? Who are the known names on the Republican side pushing the Republican message? I hear a lot of people who are independent who say things that may sound right-leaning, but they're not actually on the right. So Joe Rogan may say something that's critical to Democrats, but Joe Rogan is not a conservative. And there are people like that. But I'm talking about someone who is a conservative. And they say, I'm a conservative, and here's the message that we have right now. Who are these people? So that's my question. Who are these people? So you got J.D. Vance, fair enough. Marco Rubio, fine. We mentioned both of them. Vivek Ramaswamy, fine. He's been kind of quiet. I haven't heard from him that much. Elon Musk, maybe. I mean, he did bash Donald Trump, and he claimed the America Party. So he's kind of playing the middle. So I can't even give you Elon Musk. Candace Owens, somewhat, but Candace Owens is not a Trump supporter. So she's kind of on the outs right now. She might come back. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been, she's been sounding a little bit in the middle, even though she's a Republican. She's been sounding a little bit in the middle lately. RFK, maybe. Massey, okay. Cruz is a good one. TPUSA, I think they're in limbo right now. And when Charlie Kirk was alive, yes. Right now, I think TPUSA is in limbo. I'm not sure what they're about right now. Josh Hawley's a good one. Benny Johnson, fair. Megyn Kelly is a good one. The issue is, and here's what I'll say about all these names that are being mentioned, is that I don't think these people are all on the same page. I don't think they all agree. I was listening to Megyn Kelly's on tour right now, and she was I think she was in Jacksonville, and she had Ben Shapiro on the show, and Ben Shapiro's on there, and Ben Shapiro, I listen to some of the stuff that he says, and I like some of it. Ben Shapiro seems to get a little bit overzealous about his country, overzealous about his country of origin. He's a little bit overzealous about it. He can't stand anybody saying even one word cross about this group, and he will go and exaggerate things to make his point. He does it a little bit too much for my liking. He seems to not be that much focused on America itself. And anyway, when he was on the show, on the stage, because they recorded it and they put it on her podcast, he's kind of debating a little bit with Megyn Kelly about this and talking about Tucker Carlson and all these things that he's saying. I don't think these people are all on the same page. I'm not quite sure what the message is. The message from 2010 to about 2016 about the Democratic Party from the Republicans was very consistent. What's the message now? I'm not sure there is one. I'm not sure there is a message. Somebody said me? No, not me. And all these people I mentioned are much more well-known than I am. So I'm not sure what their message is right now. And that is an issue that they need to figure out. So both sides, it'll be interesting because they both got to figure out their messaging. And that messaging is going to determine who wins. I think 2028 is going to be determined by who masters their messaging between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, because Democrats got to stop talking about Trump and the Republicans got to rely on something other than Trump. And neither one of them has shown any discipline in this yet. And I think they're both holding their cards until about a year from now. So after next year's midterms, the focus will turn to 2028. And that's when we'll start to find out what each party is really going to focus on for the future, if anything. Right now, they both can keep it talking about Trump because Trump will help the Republicans win and Trump will help the Democrats win. At least they both think so. So we shall see. Now, the Democratic Party invests heavily, and I'll get the comments in a second. They invest heavily in these systems of spokespeople, new media, and data-driven outreach, especially new media. I do see that there are people on the right speaking up and saying things, but they tend to, and this is the strength and the weakness of people on the right when it comes to the messaging, not the politicians, but the media folks, TV, podcasters, independent platforms, is that they will say positive things about the right, but if they don't like something that the right is doing, they'll call the right out. So there are people who will come out and say, I want Trump to win. I'm a conservative. Let's say Candace Owens. Then she doesn't like something Trump's doing. She'll come out and say, I don't like what Trump's doing. I'm not supporting MAGA on this one. I don't like this angle. I don't like this. And then it seems like the right is fractured. It seems that way. And there are people on the right who voted for Trump. And now they're coming out and saying, well, I voted for Trump and I wanted Trump to win. I wanted him and I supported him winning. I told my fans to vote for him, but I don't like what he's doing right now. So it makes it feel like the right is not all on the same page. doesn't mean people on the right won't still vote right, as opposed to who their other option was, voting for the left. Whereas on the Democratic side, their approach is, we're strong in this message: anti-Trump, 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 no matter what. No matter what any of us does, no matter what any of us says is crazy, no matter how dumb any of us looks, we're going to stick to the message of a united front, anti-Trump. So it feels like the Democrats are all on the same page, whereas the Republicans can sometimes splinter and argue with each other amongst themselves on a certain topic. But it doesn't mean that those people will go vote for the Democrats just because they disagree. So it's just a matter of how you want to look at it. And I'm playing this out in my mind as I'm talking to you all. So it looks that way. But personally, just as a person who likes to look at things logically and objectively, I prefer the Republican approach. Not to say that I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I prefer the approach that even if you vote for one side, you can still criticize that side right after you voted for them. You don't like what they're doing. Whereas the Democrats are like, we're going to be on this side, and even if one of us sounds something completely ridiculous or does something ridiculous, we're going to co-sign it anyway because we're just all going against this guy. I think that makes them look a little bit delusional. I mean, this is the reason why we have Trump derangement syndrome. They start to look delusional, and it just becomes a matter of, okay, how many people can you convince with your approach versus how many they can convince with their approach. I like to believe that the average person who is an independent, indifferent, or moderate voter is more swayed by logic than by emotional rhetoric. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Logic or emotional rhetoric? I'm talking about the independent voter who could go either way. Are they looking at things logically or emotionally? Tell me in one word in the comments. Logically or emotionally, the independent voter who could vote Democrat or vote Republican, who could vote or not vote at all, which one do they work better with? Logic or emotion? So I see some of you are saying emotion and some of you are saying logic. So I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the logic is what I see more on the political right, is that they're willing to criticize their own if they don't like something that's happening on a logical level. It's just a logical approach. People saying, hey, I don't like the fact that it looks like the Republicans are in bed with AIPAC, and I don't like that. And even though I voted for Trump, I don't like that he's doing this or that, or he said this, or he promised this in his campaign, but now he's doing this. People on the right are saying that. Doesn't mean they're going to vote Democrat. People on the Democratic side, though, are like anti-Trump no matter what. Even when someone on their side goes a little bit out of bounds, they're going with it. They're just going to keep riding with it anyway. That looks more like emotional rhetoric. And depending on what the emotion is, it could work, but it seems like people kind of get over emotions a little bit quickly when it comes to politics these days. So without a coherent identity, the GOP does risk a problem, and they have a couple of years to fix this. They can't keep selling 2016 is over, and they either have to evolve their messaging, which they must. The Democrats got to evolve too. Or they can try to use personality politics until voters move on. And if they get stomped badly enough, they will be forced to make changes, which is usually what happens. When a political party gets stomped badly enough, they're forced to make changes. And the Democratic Party got stomped in 2024. Last November, the Democratic Party got slapped in the face. They didn't get slapped. They caught a 1-2 in the face from Mike Tyson. And they realized, okay, we got to do something different. And they found Zohran Mamdani. And just started hammering Trump on anything they could find, they could hammer him on. And this is where we are. We'll see what happens in 2026. This is not a decided outcome yet. It's 2026. This could flip right back to where it was, and the Republicans could be right back in charge. So this is a pending case. That's what I'll call it. This is a pending situation. Let's get to the comments. I don't think I need a restroom break here today. It's 47 degrees here today. I don't know. It's not as much moisture in the air. I don't need to take a restroom break. So I think we'll just go straight to it. Let's get to the comments. We got about 40 minutes here, folks. And let's see. On Instagram, Chanita Pack said, imagine if everyone would take responsibility for their own actions. Now that's power. Yeah, if everybody did, then politicians would not be nearly as popular as they are. So, yes, we can only imagine. It's not going to happen, but we can imagine. Let's see. The Life and Time said, Republicans don't cancel culture each other when they fall out. This is true. Trump openly criticizing McConnell, DeSantis, Pence, etc. 2016 blew up their establishment. This is true. Democrats are zero tolerance for dissent. Yes, exactly. So what you said is exactly correct. The Democrats keep everybody in lockstep with the exact same message, whereas the Republicans will argue amongst each other publicly. The question is, which one do people prefer? The independent voters. Packers 82 said the progressive movement in the Democratic Party has a message that isn't anti-Trump? What's their message? What do you say it is? Life and Time say 2028 will be the Republicans' first time in 16 years have a candidate that's not Trump. Not sure either side is ready for that. Yes, that's exactly what I said. That's my point. What are they going to talk about? What are they going to talk about in 2028 when it's not Trump up there? Now, whoever it is, assuming it's J.D. Vance, they're going to have remnants of Trump. It'll be a Trump remnant, a Trump disciple. J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio is what it's looking like right now. But things can change over the years. There have been times there have been one candidate, everybody thought this is going to be the hot person. And then by the time the election comes around, they're not even on the ballot. So we'll see. Let's see what we got over on TikTok. Sam says, the party loyalty is gone. Why didn't Republicans win a single major election last week? Well, Sam, that is a straw man question. So you get the first straw man of the day award by asking this. And my soundboard didn't work. So let me reload the soundboard. Sam, hold on so I can give you your award. And here it is. Strawberry cheesecake. Congratulations, Sam. The elections that I referred to, there were only 3 of them. New York City mayor, New Jersey governor, Virginia governor. Those are all blue areas. So they tend to go Democrat anyway. That's the whole point. And I didn't say party loyalty was gone. So that's a straw man. Secondly, it's a straw man because, again, those are blue areas. So you got actually a double straw man. So let me give you another slice. Strawberry cheesecake. Just said a lot of people I hear from are really wanting a third party. I think everybody wants a third party, a fourth party, a fifth party. A bunch of parties that all have an equal amount of chance to win is good for the voters, is good for the choosers, is not good for the politicians. The politicians want it to be just 1 or 2 parties. Why? Because now the choices are limited and you got to pick one or the other, which means they got a 50-50 chance of winning. If there are 5 parties, you only got a 20% chance of winning, which means all of them will have to do a whole lot more work to win. And they got to actually give people what they want because they could easily lose and be completely out of power. So the politicians don't want multiple parties, but the voters, we do. Packer said they focus on Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness, affordable living, Green New Deal, just off the top of my head, you mean the progressives. Okay, fair enough. I do believe there are people who focus on that. As the same way I believe there are people on the political right who focus on things that are not just Trump, Trump, Trump. The issue is the main voices, like the names that just got named when I was asking y'all to name people. I think you named Nina Turner. She does talk about other things. She's not usually talking about Trump. The issue is the people with the biggest megaphones, they're talking about Trump positive or Trump negative. They're the ones who have the most attention right now. So we'll see. DCBA said, how did Mamdani belt Trump? I think you mean to say beat Trump. He didn't beat Trump. That was my point. But he kept talking about Trump. That's what I said. The 23rd Storm said, good guy, at least you understand, but stop being brainwashed. What am I brainwashed by? What am I brainwashed on? Usually when someone says a person is brainwashed, that means you disagree with me on something, but instead of just voicing a disagreement, you say I'm brainwashed as an ad hominem. So
is that like a personal attack or something?
Congratulations to you for the first ad hominem award of the day. And Skotan says she lost due to Elon. Well, Elon is an American citizen, and Elon has a right to voice his opinion, and he owns a social media platform, and that ain't the only social platform. There's a bunch of other platforms out there, and if he wanted to leverage his asset to voice his opinion and try to help the candidate that he preferred to win, then that's all fair game. So there's nothing wrong with her losing if you believe it was due to Elon. So Elon is a citizen. He got a right to an opinion just like you do. Destiny said, look what they did just to New York over their hatred for Trump. Well, they voted for him. So, we can't say that there's anything wrong with it. They voted for him. They chose him. Packers over there said the corporate Democrats on Instagram said Democrats have control over the party. Definitely does exactly what you said. Even when the progressive Democrats have very popular messages, the donors that run that party, it seems. Yeah, exactly. We're on the same page here. I do believe there's a bunch of Democrats who are focused on things that are not really Trump based. They're based on, let's just help the masses of people. I do believe there are politicians who want to help the masses of people. The problem is it's hard to get that messaging across because it's not exciting enough. Now, if you want to win an election, you really got to get people excited. And if there's something that gets people excited, they will run towards that and ignore the more logical, more practical point. Like the things that you brought up. So I'm reading from Packers 82 over here on Instagram. He said Medicare for all. So basically people having health care and not getting gouged on the healthcare costs. Student debt forgiveness, which I mean, everybody has different opinions on it, but just saying, hey, we don't want students to be in debt for their loans even way after they got out of school. Affordable living, so everybody has housing. Green New Deal, in other words, better environment standards so that the planet lasts, depending on how you feel about that. These are things that are all logically, I'm sure there are a bunch of people who agree with them. The problem is it's not exciting enough to get the masses engaged, even though those same masses of people probably need to focus on this stuff that you said more than they need to focus on Donald Trump. They can't help themselves. Human nature is human nature. And this is the reason why politics is a tricky game. Because if it was just about facts and logic, then all the politicians we know, none of them would have jobs. Not in politics, because they're not the smartest and most logical people out there. But they are good at pushing messages, and that's why they have the positions they have. Aaron said, Power Talk bankruptcy and how that works for the 7th time. What? I'm not quite sure what you're asking. 23rd said, I'm not understanding what you're saying, but don't keep posting comments not sure what you're saying. Aaron said, Power Talk the Epstein files. What does Power Talk mean? Why are you saying Power Talk? Carl said, 2028, Trump will be able to talk openly. Now, I think he talks pretty openly now. Big Sam said, Republicans are obstructionist, performative clowns. Trump's the ringleader. It's a travesty. I think Big Sam is just trying to get an award. So here, you get the ad hominem.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
You get the ad hominem #2 award of the day by saying Republicans are performative clowns. It's a travesty. Just says celebrities. They are just people. They don't care about if you eat or not. Well, I agree with that. But they also are able to influence a lot of people's decision making. And this is the reason why we have the term influencer now. Righteous Mother said Republicans' identity is not wrapped in Trump. Well, not every Republican, but Republicans, it depends on what you're talking about. Politicians or voters. I think the politicians are leveraging Trump because he helps them win elections. If I was a Republican politician right now, I would leverage Trump's existence because Donald Trump's existence helps me win elections. So I'm going to use that because that's the game that I'm in. Republican voters get excited about Trump. That's the reason why they showed up and actually voted. Again, some of you are going to vote no matter what. There are many Republican voters who won't vote if they're not excited about the candidate. Donald Trump is an exciting candidate. He got a lot of people to show up, which is why he won in 2016, why he won again in 2024, because he got people to show up. Curly Kitchen said, yes. Righteous said, we will vote for J.D. Vance. I believe you will vote for J.D. Vance. So based on context clues here, you sound like a Republican voter who will vote regardless of who's running. You're not the person I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are indifferent to voting and they only vote if they're excited. You seem like someone who's going to vote no matter what. I'm talking about the other ones. Miss Marisha, thanks for the follow. Stephen Albert, good morning. Just said, look, I'm not a diehard Trump fan, but someone had to stop this country from going in the toilet. Okay, fair enough. Right? Fair enough. And this is the kind of messaging that Donald Trump put out there that got people like you to show up and vote. That's the point. Let's see. Snowman, thanks for the follow. Yes, 100K likes early. Thank you, Leah, for pushing everybody. We got 30 minutes here, folks, and we'll wrap up. Glory B. Patriot said, did anyone see where Massey spilled the names on the Epstein list yesterday? Awesome. Does he have proof or is he just talking? I didn't see that, Glory, but what are you referring to here? Did he just say, hey, these names are on the list, or did he actually put out a real list of real documentation? I'm assuming it's the former, not the latter. Because if there was real documentation, I would have heard about it. I didn't hear about it. So it sounds like Massey just said something, which is not proof. Karina said, all their candidates are on my feed in Texas, paid ads like crazy. Yeah, that's part of the game. You need a lot of money to win a political election, especially on the federal level. A lot of money. Just said, they're just saying everything should be free, but no plan as to who pays for that freedom. Generally, I agree with you on that. And their answer generally is we're going to tax people with a whole bunch of money. But again, that's been tried in the past. Zohran Mamdani says he's going to do it. He can't as the mayor. The state has to do it. But we'll see what he does. We'll see how promises like that work out. That's what Zohran Mamdani is going to be, a test case. And by the time that midterms come around in 2026, by the way, the Republicans are going to use whatever is happening in New York as proof as to why they should vote for Republicans instead of Democrats. So if Zohran Mamdani fails in New York in his first year in office, the Republicans are going to use his example as proof as to why in the 2026 midterms you should vote for a Republican. Keep that idea in mind. King Co said, just like you said before, you speak about politics because it's popular and it gets views. Politics and attention gain. Democrats are going to talk about Trump for the same reason. Yeah, and so do Republicans. Everybody does. Everybody talks about Trump for the same reason. I've said this many times. Donald Trump is a gift that keeps on giving. I'm glad that he won the election because it creates continuous content material for me. If I want to talk about current events, Donald Trump is always an easy topic. Packer said, the same way Bernie Sanders was that candidate for the Democrat voting side of the last election, still the most popular senator. Yes, and a lot of people say, I don't know because I don't follow the inside game that much, but a lot of people say Bernie Sanders should have been the candidate in 2016 and 2020, and the Democrats pulled the rug out from underneath his feet because they just didn't like that he was not hard enough on the Democratic messaging, and they kind of robbed him of his nomination. How many of you think that? How many of you think Bernie got robbed? Put robbed in the comments if you think Bernie got robbed of his nomination, either 2016 or 2020. I remember 2016, a lot of people were saying it, but I wasn't paying that much attention. So I don't know. But a lot of people have said that. Nee said Pelosi, Newsom, View, Kimball. Who's Kimball? Mr. Nobody said, U.S. politics doesn't treat America like a team working together for its own success. That I agree with. You're right about that. Mike Pence. Mike Pence is quiet. Where is Mike Pence? Carl said their policies are still garbage. Okay, fair enough. Anastasia said Ben Shapiro, Tucker, Matt Walsh. And Ben Shapiro is on the conservative side, but I don't even see him as a conservative. I see him as a supporter of Israel more than anything. I think that's his main focus. Tucker Carlson, yes, he's conservative. Matt Walsh, yes, he's conservative. Matt Walsh works at the company that Ben Shapiro is the main face of. We said we also one of the biggest advocates. Yes, Charlie Kirk was a huge advocate for the political right. Vivek's still out there. Vivek is very articulate. I put Vivek in the same lane as similar to Mamdani, and I don't think he's going to win at the federal level for not president like he was trying to run for. I don't think he can win. Not as a Republican, he can't. But he does have value. He should be utilized. He should be used in some way. They should engage Vivek in some way. He's very articulate. He's very good speaking. Tim Wells said Democrats are for foreign countries more than they are for us. I can see that argument. I can't argue with that. Southern Country Girl said this message isn't just Republican. People need to use discernment and break through cognitive dissonance. Well, that's a good idea. Southern Country Girl, it's not happening, but it's a good idea. Let's see. Yes, 100K likes, Tamwell. I don't know if you're asking what that means. It's at the top left corner of the screen, at least from what I can see. We try to get to 100K likes every day. We generally reach it. Anastasia said, isn't it a good thing that all these people don't agree on some things? We're not in an echo chamber. Yes, I think as a logically thinking person, at least I think I am, it's good when people on the same side can disagree openly. Whereas I'm comparing that to the Democratic side, where they seem to all be on the same message, regardless of how ridiculous some of them may sound. Nobody is rebuking each other in public on the Democratic side, but in the Republican side, they do it all the time. So it's just a matter of what flavor of coffee do you like better? Packer said that is accurate. He didn't run in 24, and the result and enthusiasm was very different. Okay. Lupo Reyna said, this Instagram, would things have been different if it was Biden and Hillary in 2016? Interesting thing about 2016 is that Joe Biden had just been Barack Obama's VP for 8 years. And when Barack Obama got to choose who is he going to support, who did he choose? He chose Hillary. I think that says a lot about Joe Biden, as far as I'm concerned. Barack Obama was super popular in the Democratic Party. He still is. He's probably the most popular Democrat alive right now. More popular than Biden, who was president for 4 years, and more popular than Kamala. That's a joke. Whoever Barack Obama co-signed in 2016 was going to get the nomination. Barack Obama didn't co-sign his own vice president. He co-signed his Secretary of Defense, was Hillary Clinton. Roy Villas, happy birthday. So I think all of you should take a look at that and ask yourself why that is. Why did he co-sign Hillary Clinton instead of Joe Biden when Joe Biden was his VP? Nathan said, you are the Elon of live streams. All right, I'll take that. Seven Outlaw said, Christian Zionists are separating us now. The never Trumpers are now MAGA, calling everyone anti-Semites. Yeah, well, see, that's what I'm saying when I'm talking about Ben Shapiro. Like, what does that have to do with us? It ain't that many of them in America. They're not determining outcomes, at least as far as I see. Lorraine said, Republicans need to work on their game bigly. Well, right now they can hold on to it till next year. Tiff said, what's the Dems message besides Trump? Well, they don't have one. That's my whole point. Well, as Packers was saying over here on Instagram, there are some messages, but the main message is anti-Trump because that works. I'm not mad at them for using it because it works. Anti-Trump is a strong message that works to galvanize voters for now. Problem is, what do you do when it stops working, which they're going to have to figure out after 2026. After these midterms are up, both sides have to figure out who they are and what their identity is. But for now, they both can hold on to this message because the midterms are coming up. And the midterm message of anti-Trump can work for the Democrats. So they do need to find a new message, but not yet. Actually, they can find it, but just keep it quiet. Don't put it out yet. That's what they need to do. Josh Official said Gavin Newsom is already making his rounds. Yeah, he's a little bit too early, though. I mean, he's trying to just build his name up and prove that he can be an everyday guy and have conversations with people on all sides and all of that. That's why he was trying to get on the Joe Rogan show. I think it's too early for him to try to get on Joe Rogan. He should have not did what he did. And then he started ridiculing Joe Rogan. I don't think he's ever going to get on the show now that he did that. I think that was a bad strategic move. Grammy 5 said, the thing about conservatives is we will look at the whole picture and not 100% stand with the party. It looks like if I had to compare the two sides, I would say conservatives are more likely to do that than Democrats. So I agree with you directionally. Carl said the message is MAGA, putting America first in all things. The message is bigger than Trump. Well, Carl, we'll see. We'll see in 2028 if that's true. Right now, Trump is there, so we can't separate the MAGA from Trump. But when he's gone, if MAGA still works, then I will say you're right. Big Sam said, how else would you get the message out? You have to go to where the people are. Yes, this is true, but there's a lot of people in America, and you can't just focus on the social media because if it was just about social media, then Kamala should have beat Trump in a blowout in 2024. Based on social media, Kamala was dominating. Based on all the paid influencers that the Democrats had. I mean, the Republicans have paid influencers too, but Democrats have a lot more of them, and they seem to be a lot more active, the paid influencers on the Democratic side, and Kamala still got her ass kicked. So yes, there are people on social media, but there's a lot more people not on social media than are on social media. So all you social media users, don't get jaded by what you see on the internet. There's a lot more voters who don't use the internet and don't talk on the internet than there are people who do. So really what it is, getting the message out, depends on what the message is, Big Sam, and it also depends on how much it matters to the people who are hearing it. Biggest message that works the most always is the economy because everybody needs food, clothing, shelter. Other things are optional. Food, clothing, shelter is not optional. Brooke Martella, thanks for the heart. Heck said, we'll pick the lesser of two evils like we always do. There's never a perfect candidate. Generally, that's what it is, but that's if you're a logical thinker, which sounds like you are. Now, the average voter is not thinking logically. I'm voting Republican no matter what, or I'm voting Democrat no matter what, regardless of who the candidate is. Heck said, Zoran fans will be disappointed. Well, if Zoran fails in New York, that's going to hurt the Democratic Party in 2026, even though he's not even a DC politician. That's how it works. Josh Official said, conservatives need to stop being stingy and liberals need to stop being violent. Good. Stephen Albert said, hey, y'all, can we post highlights of the live? Kind of cool. Was in the fan club. Yes, you can. I saw that setting this morning when I was starting a live. TikTok put a notification that you can let people post highlights. So now all you have to do is just hit a button. So now any of you can post a highlight from this live and you see anything you like, you can post it. So, yes, I'm glad you saw that, Stephen. DCBA said the right is gone. You the hard right. What does that mean? Lori said Republicans need to listen more to the people. Dems won't, so Republicans have to. What's important to people? Well, we already know what's important to people. It's always the same thing. The economy. It always comes down to money. Anything involving money, you're going to get people's attention because everybody needs money to live. That's an easy go-to topic if you're running for office, is focusing on money, at least federally. Grammy 5 said, for the most part, the right thinks more logically and looks at the whole picture. That's what I said. I said people on the right tend to be a little bit more logical than I hear from people on the left. And I'm talking the politicians themselves, not even the voters. I'm talking the politicians. People on the left are just so anti-Trump. Again, TDS exists for a reason, and they're still on it. Valley thanks for the follow. Just says, stop voting based on party. Vote based on someone's record. Vote based on what makes sense for all. Well, just that sounds good. It's not going to happen. John said, liberals need to stop trying and succeeding in stealing votes. Voter ID needs to be the norm. I can't touch that one. I don't want to get suspended again. All right, so some of you said logical, some of you said emotional when it comes to voting. It's about 50-50 on that. Turner said that's how the votes are swayed through emotions. Yes, they are. All votes are made based on emotion. Now, some people have some logic to justify their votes, but human beings make decisions based on emotion. That's just a natural, that's human nature. Humans make decisions based on emotion. The rhetoric that I've seen from the left is emotional, whereas the rhetoric from the right tends to lean more logical. It's not 100% logical, but it leans more logical. Karina said Democrats are IPAC as well. Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. You're right about that. So no matter who wins, the AIPAC is in the game. They're involved no matter who wins. Seven Outlaw said the fracture is coming from America first or Israel first. Yeah, that fracture is coming. You're right about that. I agree. Doesn't matter who's in charge. That's happening. Big Sam said there are things going on in the world bigger than America that affect America, so I vote for policy. Generally, you're right that there are things that are technically bigger than America, but I like the America first idea because other countries don't put us first. So I don't want us putting any other country first. I don't care who's in charge, Democrat, Republican. Our country should not be sending our resources to another country to handle their problems unless we handle our own problems. If we have homeless people in America and people who can't pay their bills in America and people who can't take their kids to daycare in America and people who can't pay for groceries in America, how the hell are we giving millions or billions of dollars to other countries? Let them solve their own problems. And if their people are starving in another country, all right, tough break. But how the hell is that our problem? How is that our priority? That's my question to your point. Is that it's not our priority to take care of other countries' problems when we got our own problems on the inside. So that's why Donald Trump's America First message landed so strongly, because it says all of that without saying it. Curly said, what about independent? What about them? There's not enough independence. I wish everybody was independent. Technically, then candidates would actually have to campaign and really have to come with some solid points, and you would have more than two parties. If everybody was independent voters, you have more than two parties. But since everybody's not independent, you get these two parties. DCBA said you either vote for someone or against someone. That's right. And those are only people who vote. See, most people who vote either are already on a side or they are really excited about a candidate, positively or negatively. So a bunch of people don't like Trump so much that they showed up to vote just to vote against him, not because they liked Kamala or Biden or Hillary. Joe Biden was a very weak candidate, as was Kamala Harris. Hillary was okay. And most people thought she was going to win. I thought she was going to win. Big Sam said the message has to address the issues affecting America. That I agree with. Just said, don't care what you say, only what someone does. I will never trust Democrats again. Well, it depends on which Democrat. Well, just you got to go person by person. We can't put them all in one box. Nana Cat said Democrats need to stop focusing on identity politics and abortion. Well, the reason they focus on that, Nana Cat, because it works. Identity politics works for them. This is the reason why they let all those people across the border during the Biden administration, because those people would then vote for them. And then they can label themselves as the party of anyone who's not white. That's what Democrats aimed to do. We're the party of everyone who's not white. We represent, y'all represented by us, the Democrats. And they can see the writing on the wall. There's about to be more non-white people in America than white people in America. So they position themselves in this way so that all the non-white people in America will pledge fealty to the Democratic Party, which can win them a bunch of elections. It's a good strategy if you can pull it off. The problem is they lost 2024 and Donald Trump started halting that shit. So that's the problem. And they framed Donald Trump as the party of white people. Right now, white people are still the majority in America, but that could change. So it depends on how things play out. And it also depends on who wins that 2028 election. Because let's say Kamala wins that 2028 or Gavin Newsom wins 2028. What do y'all think is going to happen at the border if Kamala or Gavin Newsom wins that 2028 election? Everything Trump's doing right now is going to get undone when it comes to immigration. And Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris, they're going to push that party of the brown person hard. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California. All right, California has a lot of brown people. And they're going to push that one really hard. So that identity politics thing, Nana Cat, they do that for a reason. That's a smart strategy for what they're trying to do. Now, I generally agree with the direction of your position, but I understand why they're doing it. Because it works. So once you say Bernie got robbed, okay, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. I lost my spot in the comments here. All right, we got about 15 minutes here, folks. We are wrapping up at 10 o'clock today. Let's see. All right, I don't think I can get back to where I was. Oh, here it is. All right. I don't know if I can get through all these comments, folks, but I'll get through as many as I can. So if I skip your comment, nothing personal. I'm just trying to get to as many as I can. Just said I gave them plenty of chances. Tried to see both sides, only made it worse for me. Fair enough. Diane said I use logic and the price of gas. Most people vote pocketbook. Yeah, that's right. And your pocketbook is logic. If you don't have money, that's logic. So that's why it works. Nee said, will be interesting what negative verbiage Democratic Party comes up with in 2028. Well, it depends on who their candidate is. That's the whole point. DCBA said, all you get with Trump is National Guards in your streets to intimidate poor ladies. Nah, that's a straw man. Strawberry cheesecake. So DCBA, I think you said that on purpose just to get the strawberry cheesecake. And Katie said it right after your comment. The strawberry cheesecake time. I think you did that on purpose. Now, JD said, why do blue areas if party loyalty is gone? That's what you said. No, that's not what I said. So you already got a straw man for that. So how many slices of strawberry cheesecake you trying to get here? Stop being greedy. So Carl said, open borders, gender affirming, funding illegals, DEI, identity politics, just remind the people. Yes, the thing is, Carl, there's a bunch of people who like that stuff. So yes, if you're talking to conservatives, then you'll get them excited to vote against that. But there's a bunch of people who are in complete agreement with all of that. So be careful who you say that to. All right, Brooke Martella, thank you for the lightning bolts. CC, thanks for the lightning bolts. Big Sam says, this is policy, so anyone voicing Trump-style policy will lose. Which policy are you talking about? Steven said, Dre makes it very clear he isn't on one side or the other, brainwashed. Yeah, well, people say that when they hear something they disagree with. Just said, people have trouble deciphering truth. That's very true, because it's hard to decipher truth these days. There's too much information out there. Big Sam said, no one voted for Mamdani because they dislike Trump. I disagree with that. I mean, we don't know the actual reasons anybody voted, but did Mamdani use Donald Trump's name? Did he invoke Donald Trump's name a lot in his campaign? Yes, he did. Why do we believe he did that? I believe he did that because he knows that there's a bunch of people who notice Trump and want to go against Trump. And even though he's not running against Trump, invoking his name does get people excited. Now, we can't say that invoking Donald Trump's name doesn't get attention. Zohran Mamdani's no dummy. He knew what he was doing. Goldie Film said, Dre, just as you said before, you speak about politics a lot because it's popular, it gets views. Politics and attention game. Democrats are going to talk about Trump for the same reason. Yes, that's right. Man37 said, explain how $40 billion to Argentina is America first. I can't explain that. If that happened, if you're asserting that happened, then it's not America first. That's the point. And it's one of the things that Donald Trump ran on going against. The problem is he doesn't control what happens with all the money. People pin it on the president, but it's not really the president. That's Congress. King Co said, Dre, how do you feel about us sending money to Argentina and supporting their farmers over our own? My general position on anything with America sending money out of our country to other countries is that until we solve our own issues, we should not be helping other countries. I understand why we do it because there's a lot of tentacles in the government that people don't even know about, let alone do we understand, let alone can we explain, including myself. But I'd rather we focus on our own country because they ain't sending no money to us. So why we got to send money to them? Now, if I was in the government, I'll probably learn why it happens the way it does. But the government is a very big entity. It's bigger than it seems. And there's a lot of money moving around that most of us will never know about. Glory B said, will Mamdani become mayor at the fiasco yesterday at swearing-in ceremony? Yes, he will become mayor. He's not going anywhere. He got how many years you get in New York? 4? DCBA said, what do you pick, healthcare right or gun right? When you say right of healthcare, what do you mean by that? You mean giving it away for free? Big Sam said he voted for Mamdani because he's not in bed with iPod. Well, that may be one reason why he got some votes. One thing that he focused on, as I already said, Zohran Mamdani focused on money. Free buses, rent freezes, taxing the rich. Notice the common denominator, money. He focused on money. That's why he won. And there's a bunch of people in New York who feel like they don't have money. So that's why he won. Big Sam said everyone loves a circus. Well, people love a circus to watch. They don't love a circus to be involved in. Grammy said, bottom line is we're headed towards Sharia law that's based on people voting on emotions. I don't know if we're going to go that far. Katie said, I feel an emotional damage coming soon. I can't wait. We'll see if we see one. Steven says, wild to me how these people don't see Trump isn't an everyday politician. I think everybody knows that. Now, Donald Trump has been swayed more towards everyday politics because he's in it. If you're in something, eventually you're going to start behaving in that way. He's dealing with everyday politicians every day. So he's going to be influenced. Jake said, as an independent, if the left is run by the radical side that supports open socialism, I'll vote red. Fair enough. And Well, if you live in New York, then I guess you voted red. I don't know where you live. Marky Man said, I know people who don't vote because they feel it doesn't make a difference. Right. And that's why you need a galvanizing candidate to get those people to get up off their asses and vote. JD said cities can't impose taxes, not the type that not Vivek, but Zoran Mandani's talking about. No, the state has to do that. Naturally, Imani, thanks for the follow. Stephen Albert said Trump is a businessman actually trying to do things for us, the people. Well, yes, that's how he came out. Big Sam says Zoran says he will aggressively go after money that is already owed but not paid. Yeah, we'll see. Sounds good. Jason Bazin, thanks for the follow. So a bunch of you say Bernie got robbed. Okay. Bernie has a lot of fans. Then Katerina says Bernie was hot air, but a lot of you say he was robbed. So a lot of you agree Bernie Sanders got robbed in 2016 and or 2020. Lori said Massey was saying specifics without using real names, but using specific careers was pretty specific. Was he showing you evidence or was he just talking? Lori, that was my question. If he's just talking, that doesn't mean anything because anybody can say anything on the internet, even a politician. They got to prove it. You accuse somebody of a crime, you got to prove it. If you're saying somebody did a crime and basically we've agreed that whoever's on the Epstein list, they were probably doing some type of crime. That's pretty much how people associate that term Epstein list. If you're saying somebody was doing a crime, you must prove it. You can't just say it. So if that's all you got, Lori, that's not a story. That's not a news item. So, Susie Lorena, thanks for the follow. Big Sam said, the Zionists are determining outcomes in America. I've heard many people say that. I can't argue with that. Allison said, we are really in trouble. Why can't we get good, solid representation? Well, we vote for the representation we got. We choose our candidates, folks. We choose these politicians. Steven said Rogan hates Gavin. That's why he moved out of California. Gavin ruined Cali. Yes, I know that he really didn't like California. So that's why, again, Gavin is trying to get on that show because it's the biggest show out there. And Rogan probably doesn't like him. And now he's trying to ridicule Rogan. I don't think that's going to work. That's why I don't think it's a good idea by Gavin to ridicule Rogan as a way of trying to get him on the show. Like, that's not going to work. And he needs to be on that show if he's going to run in 2028. That's the problem. Nana said, we need to talk to the non-productive characters. Well, you can't talk to them because they don't want to listen to what you have to say. Carlos said, America is red with a few heavily populated blue areas. We need to get the people out to vote. This is true, but the heavily populated blue areas have a lot of people too. So if you get people out to vote, they're going to vote too. Don't forget about that. Big Sam said, how is what is logical about the right? I'll just explain to you. Maxine Cardin, thanks for the follow. Big Sam said, electing a felon is logical. All right, you get a strawberry cheesecake. Benjamin Moore, thanks for the share. Carla said, America folks focus on America. America first, rather. Big Sam said, those are not the problems I'm speaking about. BRICS affects the American dollar we need. Gandhi Head said, how do you feel about us sending money to... I already answered that. All right, a bunch of you asking about the sending money to other countries. Again, I said... we need to focus on America. People in America, American citizens. That should be our number one focus. Everybody else is secondary. Alex Gomez said, America has never taken care of any country. America go to other countries to steal their resources. Okay, well, see, that could be a reason why we give, because we take stuff too. That could be a fair enough message. Now, we got 5 minutes here, folks, and we got to wrap up. A few more comments. Carlos said, because they have companies and NGOs that launder money back to politicians. They might. Terica said, Argentina has a lot of lithium, so sending funding to them may help us with getting the rights over. Okay, so see, there's an argument for that. Glow said, Trump claimed that giving money to Argentina, he will make more money back. Okay, that might be the case. That could be true. Carolyn said, Bernie got robbed, but I don't care. I don't know if Bernie even cares. Steven said, give Dre some love, y'all. He keeps him 100 every day. He deserves more gifts. Let's go. I agree. Gotti said, how do you prove somebody committed a crime? You take them to court and you get them indicted on a criminal charge, and then they go to court and they get judged by a jury of their peers. It's called the legal system. That's the only way you can prove somebody committed a crime. A crime must be legally adjudicated. You cannot prove somebody committed a crime by saying it. You have to take them to court. If they don't get taken to court and proven in court, then it didn't happen. That's the law in the United States. Katie said, it's almost time, so I just want to say thank you for today. As always, love the vibe here. Well, I appreciate you, Katie. Thank you. Jake Lancaster said the Democratic Party is moving in a dangerous direction. Supporting socialism party is dead. Well, I think it's getting a lot of people excited, Jake. That's what it looks like. You saw what happened in New York, didn't you? What happened in New York is people got excited about supporting socialism. So that is, again, is the reason why my live yesterday was what it was, is that this guy came out and said, I am a democratic socialist and I make no apologies for it. And a bunch of people cheered for it. And not only did they cheer for it, they voted for him. And twice as many people voted in this election to voted in the last New York mayoral election, which means this guy gets people excited. That message got a lot of people excited. And that's what people need to be concerned about, even if you don't live in New York. A lot of people got excited about that message of a Muslim in New York City saying, I'm a democratic socialist and I'm going to do all this stuff to solve the money issues that many of which he probably won't do or can't do. But he ran on it and it worked, which means other Democrats noted that and they're going to do the same thing if he succeeds. Now, again, this first year of his term starting in January, people are going to be watching. And if he is getting these things to actually happen, then you're going to notice the same messaging coming from the Democrats in 26 and in 28. Karina said, what if investing in other countries helps America? Okay. Now, again, that's what I said. So some people came back and said, well, Trump said, well, they'll make more money than they spent on for example, the Argentina deal. If that's the deal, then that's smart. Now, if we're just giving them money just to give it to them, which we're probably not, there's always all types of fine print in these agreements that we don't know about. But if we're giving them money to make more money back, then it's a smart thing to do. If we're just giving them money while not serving our own people, then it's a dumb thing to do. Not necessarily dumb, but y'all get what I'm saying. I'd rather focus on the people here in America. So a lot of people in America only see the headline. A bunch of you brought up the headline. We gave $40 billion to Argentina. Well, what's the rest of the deal? Thank you for the roses and the goats, J Cam and Karina. JD said, not true. You can prove it through a bench trial. It's contexting me.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Colloquially, you understand what I'm saying is that a crime has to be adjudicated in court. And when I say a jury of your peers, that's a figure of speech. So let's not play the context games. Lori B said, have a wonderful day, Dre. Everyone else as well. A wonderful Veterans Day. Great. Gotti says, you've seen someone can get proven guilty and people don't believe it or don't care. That's true. But how'd you get proven guilty? What'd you get proven guilty of? And how the charges even come to exist? Those things must be taken into account when we talk about Donald Trump having felonies. How did it happen? Those charges are usually misdemeanors and they usually are past the statute of limitations. They pulled all that stuff out of nothing because they want to go after Donald Trump. And everybody knows that. That's the reason why those convictions didn't make a difference in the outcome of the election, that is. Curly said, like how ICE kidnaps innocent citizens. No, they don't. There may be some false positives, but they're not kidnapping anybody and they're not kidnapping innocent citizens. What they're doing is catching illegals and getting them out of the country. Chris Jazz says, only because he promised everything for free. Talking about Mamdani? Yeah, that's exactly what he did. Big Sam said, I originally did not like Mamdani. School president messes pizza for lunch, but I looked into it and it made sense. All right, well, we'll see what he actually does. We'll see what happens in New York when he starts actually governing. Or right now, he's just talking. Everything sounds good when you're talking. We'll see what happens when he starts doing this stuff. Glow said, I think the election was fraudulent. No ID, no questions asked, no check of signature. Well, depends on the location, but some places you can't get rid of that. JD said, jury of your peers isn't a figure of speech. It's how a jury trial works. A jury of your peers is a figure of speech. How are you going to tell me what's a figure of speech? Oskin said, sorry, I missed this. Advanced countries take far more than they give, especially from Africa. Okay, well, Africa's not the topic, but fair enough. Big Sam said that did not happen. I voted and my signature was checked. Some places they check, some places they don't. I believe last time I voted, I'm not sure they checked my signature. I'm not sure they asked for my ID either. I think they got to ask for your ID. I don't remember. Let me not even say. I don't remember. Big Sam said, wearing mask, no warrants is kidnapping. No, it ain't. Who'd they grab? And is the person doing something against the law? That's not kidnapping. I don't know. We have to pull the dictionary out for that. We're not going to do that right now. Benjamin Moss, thanks for the follow. All right, so everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. If you like this one, come back tomorrow. If you didn't like this one, come back tomorrow. If you're not sure, come back tomorrow. The book that I will suggest to all of you today, I got a whole new shipment in here. It's the third day. The Decision Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. This book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. This book is all about what separates the pros from the amateurs. And if you, as a professional, have those days when you don't really feel like working, you know you don't really want to work, but you have to work anyway, I'll give you this book free. Just cover the shipping. Go to ThirdDayBook.com. ThirdDayBook.com. Or just text the number 3 to the number in my profile. My number is 305-384-6894. Send a text to that number with the number 3, and we'll send you a link to get this book. Again, the book's free. Just cover the shipping. ThirdDayBook.com. You get this book free. I'll see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic to be determined. We got a couple more topics we haven't gotten into. We may talk about, well, there was a concept of people saying Trump was trying to starve Americans by cutting off the SNAP, but the government shutdown is about to be over, so we might not even talk about that. Trump been pushing about possibly ending the filibuster. We may get to that. We may eventually talk about Karine Jean-Pierre, but she might not be interesting enough. Or whatever comes up. Something might happen between today and tomorrow that is a bigger topic than all of this, and we'll talk about that. So we'll see what comes up between now and then we'll get to it. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Happy Veterans Day. Stay warm today. I think it's cold everywhere in America right now, at least in the morning. I will see all of you tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Work on your game. We out of here.